Listen next to it beat.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen?
What's
I have the
up?
sis here.
What's up? What's up?
Tiff is in the building, so it worked last week.
Uh-huh.
We came through. I was able to talk to your husband.
Yes.
Incredible job, by the way. Shout out to my boy.
Yeah.
He's
You
probably
represented.
here. We got him working today.
Yeah.
We got him working. But my friend Tiffany bragged on you last week. This week, we're still on the subject title, The Voice of an Unspoken Man. However, we're going to go with, I guess, the thought we have, and we're gonna bring it to life today. I'm so on edge. Literally, as you can see, I'm on edge of this couch because I don't know how this is gonna go. I don't know what's gonna be said, but
I don't either.
I think it's gonna be super dope. But can you tell them a little bit about yourself, what you do, and brag on you from there?
Okay, so I am a mother of two, a wife, of course, and my boys are both getting ready to, get out of the eagle's nest, going to college. I was a school counselor, and so I'm kind of transitioning into LPC. I'm an LPC associate under Dr. Rick Artell. So I'm not quite finished, but I'm on the way.
It's on the way.
And, I see clients right now that have anxiety, depression, married couples, relationships, and I've always been someone who really wanted marriages to work, because I come from a broken home and I know the results, I know the impact that can have on a young lady. That's pretty much about me. I am also a children's book author. I've written a couple self-published books, so it's just some things I like to do on the side.
I love it. I love it. And I love the social media that y'all do with the marriage. What did you know?
Oh, yeah. So how did you know? Yeah, and we'll do, my husband and I, we'll do like a couple just motivational type things for marriages, just hoping that something that we say or do can kind of keep them together, keep them working hard, because marriage is work. But it was ordained by God, and it's something that's going to help to build the kingdom, and so that's why I am always all about it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Sex. I know some of y'all probably like in church right now listening to this podcast. Sex. So I think the term or word sex is used, and when you hear it for a lot of people, they clinch. But sex in marriage is not a clinching factor. But I think the things that we want to talk about for the Voice of the Unspoken Man, this is our first woman on the I Am Alpha podcast.
All right.
And I think it's so dope because it's not just a man perspective. It's going to be cool to get the woman perspective. So comment down below. Would love to see your reactions. But I know this is going to be challenging for me. So I'm curious if you're going to throw some questions at me, which probably can happen.
I'm going to try.
I'm going to give y'all the response. Some of it may be good. Some of it may not be something I'm working on. But let's open up with a quote, okay? This quote comes from your husband. I think it was a direct text. Was that a direct text? I think it was a direct text. Let me find it. There we go. All right, quote. All right. One or two things are typically going on in a married man's mind: the sex he just had with his wife, and his plans to woo her into the next opportunity.
Yes, sir.
What do you think about that?
I think it's, something that is realistic. Before he was a married man, he was a man. And sex is something that is typically at the forefront of the man's brain.
Yeah.
And so it is something that, you know, they're thinking about.
Yeah. Did you know that before marriage?
I knew that before. I knew that after marriage. I think we were having a marriage class or course at New Faith. It was a church I was going to, and they talked about it. I think that's where I learned it. I believe that it was at the forefront. Like they're always thinking about it. And it's just the way they were made.
It's true, though. For majority. Or for me.
It's for all.
You. For you. Right? You know what, though? It's, okay, I want to read this one more time because somebody comment below and write it down. It says, one or two things are typically going on in a married man's mind. The sex he just had with his wife and his plans to woo her into the next opportunity. That is the voice of an unspoken man. So if your husband's sitting there, he's probably thinking, whether you knew that or not, ladies, that's the mindset typically. I would love today to have an authentic conversation to break down what men, even though we have those thoughts, what's the reading on the wall that goes behind that or supports that? What's the reading in between the sentences? You know, it's some things that have to be done to have that intimacy on a consistent basis, right?
Yeah.
And then also for the woman that didn't even know, like maybe women think like he's thinking about our next family vacation.
Yeah. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. And it's good that we're having this conversation because if you're a married woman and you don't know that this is on your husband's mind,
some problems.
That could be a problem.
That could be a problem. 100%.
Because you want to talk to him about these other things, and if y'all haven't been intimate, he's like, girl, when?
Yeah. Do you think that, so let's jump into it before we go into a question. I'm going to ask you the first thing. I guess it's maybe a question from me or from my drive here. Do you think women that are now hearing this for the first time, is it okay for them to change potentially to please their husband? Or is it like, no, this is the way we got married, I didn't know that, and I didn't sign up for that?
Well, possibly a woman could be thinking, you know, I didn't sign up to be having sex all the time. And I guess that's fair. And some of them, you know, might be like, oh, okay, I didn't know.
Right.
Now that you know.
Now that you know. Because
you're in this thing and you made a vow, let's do something about it. Yeah. Because who wants their man? I know sometimes a woman might feel like, well, if I don't have sex with him, you know, and he cheats on me, you know, that's not my that's not my fault. That's not, and it's not. Tough. But guess what? I don't want my man on the streets. And I've had this conversation with some of my, you know, closest friends. I don't want my husband on the street, on these streets like that. Yeah. With that on his brain, and I'm not available for him. As you know, as in marriage, we're supposed to be available for each other. Yeah. And may not always be the time that is convenient, because I know, ladies, you're working. I know you have kids. Yeah. I know you're coming home. You're doing the laundry. You're cooking. And sometimes we have to make some compromises with our husband, but for the most part, that is something we really need to start thinking about and considering. Like, this is on his mind. So if it's on his mind, some things we might need to just kind of do different, you know, to try to, again, be available.
That's the whole point of the podcast, for us to use this platform to be transparent with an emotion, with a feeling and a mentality. And the goal, fellas, is how do we move forward after explaining this to our spouse? I would love to go into the first question, but it is a disclaimer we have to put out there. This is for married couples. It's hard for a man to keep his girlfriend in restriction of the value and the steps of marriages, and y'all not married. Yeah. That's like the realest example is if you stay with your mama and you expect her to be intimate with you all the time, and you supposed to be intimate to me, and no, y'all at your mama house, bro. And I mean, just to be real,
this ain't even your house.
Yeah, so not to step on anybody's toes, but if you're not married, this is still the perfect opportunity for you to hear and listen to values you need to think about or have conversations
before you make that step.
Before you make the step. And if you're currently like myself or Tiffany in marriage, maybe this can be something that can trigger, and we'll talk, I'm sure, about dating within the marriage and also maybe changing. Like Tina challenged me the other night. I don't know why. And Tina, you watch this show all the time. She did me like this when she watched the last episode. Every night I get into bed around 1:30. She's become a night owl like me. Soon as I'm ready just to lay down, so what did you mean? I'm like, hold on, you had all day to talk to me about this. Why at 1:30 in the morning? So, but I'm glad it brings.
That's when her mind is working. Yeah. That's when her mind is working, possibly. But I also want to say, I'm not, a marriage sex therapist. I'm not. I'm bringing to you what works for my household, but also, I mean, it's fact that it's on the man's mind. It's the forefront of his brain. So with that information, we just got to kind of think of how we're gonna, what we're gonna do with that. Because if that's on his mind, and then you just sitting like, well, that's tough.
That's it.
I don't know.
That's it. Well, I'm gonna open up my phone. This came from Instagram, from my personal page.
Okay.
I actually put it on Facebook, and people inboxed. I'm sorry if I didn't check your inbox and on Facebook, but maybe we'll do it later.
Yeah.
I text you, right? Oh, I text both of y'all. Okay. First question, first of all, was when it comes to sex in a marriage, what would you like to ask your spouse? Some of y'all answered it correctly, and some of y'all was like, I'm gonna answer. I want a question that has nothing to do with this, but we're gonna guide it in there anyway. First question, I'll tell. What are important boundaries in marriage? So since we're talking about sex specifically, do you feel like there's a boundary that maybe is communicating what y'all do in your bedroom versus not communicating, not telling your family and friends about activities or whatever? What's your 2 cents?
I guess it depends on what the topic is, because there are different things. I guess as far as marriage is concerned, you might want to talk about like not telling your family that we're having some issues with that, because they're going to be looking at you kind of cross-eyed.
So I didn't think of issues. I'm thinking of the experience you can't share with your boys, but I never thought of, man, it might be painful. It might be trauma or whatever connected to it. So
some things you can't tell mama.
Yeah. I can see this coming from someone that's not married, this question, because maybe you're developing a conversation or you have this script that you want to read to someone that you potentially may marry or have interest in marrying, and you want to set that foundation now. I think if I was to think this before Tina and I became engaged, I would like to, if I was to ask you before we were married for guidance, I would have wondered more so about crossing the line sexually before you're married. I think that's interesting because in my faith, right, you're not supposed to have sex until you're married. So maybe that's potentially what we can give you on your question. And I'm asking to you now, what's your intake on having sex before marriage?
So I had it before marriage, and my husband and I, we talk about it with our boys in the respect of, we feel like God is gonna, he blessed us regardless, and there's a scripture somewhere that says the just and the unjust, like you're gonna continue to get, because he's just that good. But I feel like had we not had sex, there are just a lot more blessings that we probably would have, I'm sure. In some of the things that we were doing, we kind of struggled a little bit in some areas, but then when you have sex before marriage, there's so many things that you go into your marriage kind of wanting your mate maybe to do, or inhibitions, like they're just different things that because the Bible talks about how you become one. And so when you've slept with other people, sometimes you bring some of that because it's a soul kind of thing, experience. And you're bringing that into marriage. The people that you slept with, a piece of them is
still
kind of with you. Some of those expectations, some of the things that happen, you just bring it with you.
And I know it's tough for somebody that's hearing or listening to this. It's like, dude, I've never bought a car without test driving it. And I know that has to be fearful.
And it's not, some people would say it's not realistic in these times. But there are still people who are holding out, who are, doing what the Bible asks. And I have a lot of different views about it. But I think that it can, if you've already been test driving, and when you finally get with your mate, sometimes is that as special? And it can be special because it's you and that person hadn't been together,
but I think I think it opens up so many different doors that potentially shouldn't be there. I'm gonna go ahead and go there.
Go ahead, I'll back you up.
You sure?
I mean, because I kind of feel like I know where you're going to go. But
I mean, I think that, so I think it's a unique question. And I don't know if you specifically asked this question, but we're going to kind of make it what it was. I think the boundary that I'm saying is it's okay to say, hey, before we get married, I want to connect with you on a emotional and a mentality and a spiritual spot before I go literally lay down open, whatever it may be. But the challenge that I think it does open, I want to word this a certain way.
Just say it.
But I might just have to say it.
Go ahead.
I think when you have sex prior to marriage, it does bring challenges that can be potentially be uncomfortable because you had sex before marriage. The first thing that popped to my head is what is it called? Can't think of the term. It'll come to me. Something association. But basically when something happened, you can go back to a memory based upon a smell, based upon a touch, based upon a sound. A newer association. I think that's what's called, newer association. If something happens to you in an intimate way and it doesn't happen to you in an intimate way in your marriage, guess what happens? You remember that. And if I would give you an example, guys, if that has nothing to do with sex, if my wife Tina, if she had a ex-boyfriend that always paid for food, and then we went out to eat and I never paid for food, she's gonna be like, oh, well, such and such used to pay for my food. And I think that happens sometimes in the bedroom because, and this is just one.
For sure, and I said expectations. You have expectations. You've been with someone, maybe they did certain things, certain positions, certain, they went down, all of that, oral sex, and maybe, your wife might not be willing to do that, and you were getting it, like, from other people that you were dating, and you like, what's up? Like, I got married for this?
And that causes potentially trauma, because now it's not you my girlfriend, boyfriend, it just didn't work out. Like, what happens now?
Because you're married.
You got kids and real estate and all that. It's just no breakup thing that's so easy. It's I think that one thing amongst others are several problems that can develop prior to it. Now, I also know on the flip side with the new generation, potentially it's like, well, I'm willing to deal with that chance because I want to know what I'm buying. So, but going back to the question, I'm pretty sure that very same thing we just said will come back up again. But I think with the boundary, if I was to teach my daughter, if I ever had one, especially my daughter, catch on to that, I would definitely teach her to set that boundary. Like, hey, you're gonna love me, not just based upon lust, but everything else. I think that would be a great boundary to start with before you get into marriage and sex. What other boundary? If you can think of another, if you can't think of another boundary, we'll go to the next question. You can think of one, because I can't. When it comes to intimacy, I can't think of nothing else.
I can't, but I was, as you were talking, I was just thinking to myself, I could see how a married man or woman could be frustrated thinking about like some things that were happening to them prior, and like it's not happening, and that could just potentially be an issue because it's always on your mind. Like, and if you don't want to voice it, then you're going throughout your marriage with that frustrating feeling of this is not happening.
That can be hard. Because so I train majority women, and I listen to y'all. I do. I listen to y'all from a standpoint of I'm always listening, but I would never give you a response until you ask me personally. So some people will, but a lot of times I hear the conversations around the gym, and this girl pulled me to the side and she specifically asked me, why won't he do what my other would do from a standpoint of like security and just other things. And specific example was traveling. She wanted to travel more, and he never wanted to travel. And she was like, well, every time he doesn't want to travel, it makes me think of the guy that always took me to travel. And I poured out on her. I was like, look, that's just relationship in general, and I think that's the importance. Here goes the word coming back again, dating. If you don't continue to date within your marriage, like, other people's name can come back up in their mind because they remember the dating. Like, everybody loves the dating. As much as y'all that are single, you say you don't want to date and you're ready to be married, when you get married, I promise you want that date, right?
You continue it.
I think for guys, I think we do have to step our game up, because what if all the things they're asking for, they remember somebody else? And I don't know about you, Tiff. I don't want Tina thinking about the ex
somebody
all the time.
Else,
so I'd rather step my game up. And if it's, I don't want to buy another car, but if it's if it's going out to eat, if it's letting her shop, whatever
traveling,
it is, like traveling, like I'd rather her do those things versus saying such and such or like me to do. So when I explained that to my homegirl at the gym, she understood. But I said it's both ways. You know what I mean? Like the same thing he's asking for you potentially, you got to understand. So I'm tying that in with what we're talking about with sex. You do have to be careful, because if the voice of an unspoken man says something, understand if he's naturally quiet or doesn't talk about it that much, it probably took a lot for him to say it.
To even bring it up.
So if he did say it and you're not doing it, what happens to the brain? It takes you back to a certain place. So I was able to tell her that. Hopefully it helped her. She hasn't asked me anything else since. I don't know if it was good or bad, but
maybe one boundary could possibly be, and I think Stephen and I talked about some boundaries one time about, like, depending on how you grew up or what you saw, values, maybe your relationship with another female. Possibly.
That'd be good.
You want to keep it on sex? We are talking. Okay.
I mean, no, whatever you got.
That was it. Like your relationship with another female, possibly at
that's real.
At work, and I think again it goes back to your values and your, like, some things I don't even feel like I had to tell Stephen, because he kind of just, I trusted him to make those kind of those decisions on how to, be who you are and still be able to be have have those work relationships or other relationships outside of marriage. I didn't have to.
That's tough. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, and being equally yoked. So the values that we have, like when you dating someone and you meet them and you have a lot of things in common, your values are lining up. I don't really have to set boundaries, because we really have some of the same things in mind, and I don't have to say, well, I think that was you shouldn't have been like, why you were doing that, like, because you're not gonna do it.
I think that's it, evenly, because I'm thinking self now. I don't ever remember Tina and I ever talking about that. Right? But I never, at the same time, trying to put myself in somebody's shoes, I couldn't imagine Tina having a man that was her best friend. So I don't know if that could potentially be a question. Like, if Tina had a guy and she was always like, this is my best friend, we travel together and we're going to go to a trip.
You'd be like, wait a minute,
I might feel a certain type of way.
Wait a minute.
So maybe that's a boundary that could be.
Because once you get married, you are kind of her best friend.
I need to be.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then on the same token, I think one of the things that attracted me to Tina, with me being in the industry I'm in, she's never, let me see your phone, or come to the gym or the boot camps and looking at all the women crazy. Like, that was so attractive to me with Tina.
The confidence.
I guess that's why we didn't have the conversation, but now that I think about it, if she did have a guy best friend, he looking like Reggie Bush, I'm gonna be like, hey, look, Tina. I get a Facebook message, but put it on the wall. Yeah. But I think that's a good boundary if there's one. Sounds good? Mm-hmm. You ready to move to the next one?
Let's go.
That was dope. All right. Number 2. Yeah, this one's going to probably be the most popular one, I think. How many times, and this came from a guy. I know the person. So he said, how many times a week is a good amount of times to have sex? I don't think it's a specific number, but I'm definitely curious to hear from a woman perspective.
Okay. So before I give my answer, why don't you go ahead
she got me, didn't she?
Tina, this is for you.
Oh, that's cold. This is my audience, and I gotta be honest. She said, mm-hmm. All right, so foundation, disclaimer, right? I work out so much, Tiff. It's like, I gotta, Now, honestly, I think, personally for me, I think we talked about this on the last podcast, like, I'm ready. Like, right?
All the time.
I'm ready. Like, you just tell me, I'm there. Wake me up, right? I am definitely, I've changed. Going into 7 years in marriage, I've definitely changed, but give me at least 2 to 3 times a week, give me every other day.
Okay, newlyweds. That's probably an everydayer.
You know what? From a guy perspective, definitely.
Yeah, because you just got in and you like, what?
You like, hey.
Yeah.
But I'm curious on, man, I know this is really tough for y'all to comment down below, but I'm really curious on everybody else's expectation getting into marriage. Pastor Stewart, Great Emmanuel Church, we almost did our premarital counsel through him, and I really wanted to go to him, Tiff. And the only reason why we couldn't because our time and schedules didn't mix. But David Walsh, shout out to my boy David, he does a lot of videos for us. He was like, man, my pastor, he makes you sign this contract. And one of the questions in the contract is, how many times do you have sex a week? Because when he sat down with his wife, she had an answer and an expectation, and he had one, and it was like, hey, this ain't mixing. So they had that conversation in that counseling session. So now thinking back as a newlywed, I wonder what Tina's answer would have been versus mine. And I'm bringing that out to you guys because I think that's a conversation, whether you're not married or married now. I don't know if that's brought to attention. And I think especially for the voice of an unspoken man that wrote that, I'm guessing it can go both ways. He could be like, hey, I'm tired, woman. He could be, but a lot of times it's the other way around.
He's not going. So, and my thing is, will it make or break it asking her to marry? If you would have had that session and you would have been like, I'm up here, and she was kind of like somewhere up in here, like, would you have still?
Oh, me? Hold on. I said no, but let me be. If it was like, once a month, I'd be like, well, hold on.
Yeah.
We're going, I'm planning to do this for the next 50, 80 years. You telling me 52 times a year? Well, you got to divide that by 12 because once a month, that's going to happen. So I'm jokingly saying that, but no, I think seriously,
you would have had to take a step back.
Yeah, I would have had to evaluate it.
So
I definitely would have.
Was sitting with some females just not too long ago, and this kind of not exact question came up, but we kind of talked about it in a way, and a response was, and I've said this earlier on, I never want to tell my husband no. Ladies, don't shoot me. I never want to tell my husband no.
But I feel it coming.
But then life happens.
That's true.
And this is a real thing. And this is why, even though we talked about sex being the forefront of your husband's mind, a man's mind, and you don't want to have him on the streets like that, with all of this. But in the same respect, in a marriage, that's why you have to compromise. And I feel like for a married couple, 2 to 3 times, I think that's fair.
Healthy.
And I believe that it's healthy. But see, with real life, sometimes it's just not set up like that. And you have to, it may be like one time during the week and one time during the weekend. Like sometimes it happens like that. And then in the summer, you might be just jumping off the walls. I think marriage has seasons, just like anything else. Sometimes you have a couple dry patches, and sometimes it's real vibrant and you're just full of energy and you have that time. But sometimes you don't have it, and it's up to you as a couple to be like, it's okay. I know my wife gonna break me off. She tired right now this week. And if I really want her to break me off, let me go up in this kitchen and wash these dishes because she just finished cooking. She went to go get those groceries. Let me go take the groceries and put them up because I want her to be vibrant when she lays down so that I can get my time.
That's real.
Sometimes we have to give and take. I mean, yes, you want your wife to be the one that's coming and taking care of your home. But, this is not like the
It's different.
This is a different era, and women are working just as hard as these men. And so my girls need a break. I'm coming.
Stand up for y'all.
I understand. I know the plight. And so if we work together, we can accomplish that. But if you just want her to go do this, do that, and then lay down and get jumped on, that's
a lot.
It's just not realistic.
That's a lot. I like what you said about the season because whether it's business or education, we do have these seasons where, man, the marketing worked, everybody's trying to sign up, and then you have other seasons like, I did the same marketing, but the same result didn't take place. But I think there's a time in that season, and if I can talk to the homie, my fellas, my bros, just realize too in that season, acknowledge it. Right? Because I think sometimes we get to a place where we have an expectation that it's supposed to be that season all the time, all the way, all the time, and it's okay to be like, hey, this is that season for her. She ain't there right now.
Or we can be kind of self-centered a little bit, and like it's all about me. It's all about me. And yes, we want to be able to be available for each other. But if you really want to turn your wife on, go up in there and wash some dishes.
That's why she always be telling me to do that.
Go up in there and she look up and say, "Oh, my man is washing them dishes." That might give her a little more energy. She might, do a couple things. Some extra.
I do believe that too, because there's only so many minutes in a day, right? So if she's washing your clothes, if she's folding them, that might be an hour. So if that hour that you wanted when the kids went to sleep, that could have been the hour, right? So sometimes, fellas, you do got to wash your clothes, man. I know you do have to wash your clothes, but you kind of sometimes have to pick and choose, especially if it's not that season. Like if it's not, you said the word, was it vibrant? The term? If it's not that vibrant season, wash the clothes, bro. give her that hour. I'm just trying to look out for the end result. Again, the quote was try to woo her. Right. So
and that definitely is a woo.
So I think that if we go back to the question, it's tough for me to say a certain amount of reps, right? But I will say that it should happen. It should be something that hopefully you can be consistent at. But to be like, hey, we supposed to do 4 times a week. It's Sunday. It's time. Like, I think that's unfair. That's unfair. But I do think it's a valid question for someone that may think it and feel it.
And you may not, as a woman, feel like this is not even intimacy. This is like a job. Like you're taking taking it out of it when it's like, it's been a week. Nobody wants to feel that pressure. Because especially if you know your wife is working, she's doing these things, and you're putting that pressure on her, it's like, I don't even know if I want to be intimate. Because you're not even trying to woo me, make me feel, I appreciate all these other things, and I want to help you.
I love that.
And I want to caress you.
I love that. Do you think it's okay to have that conversation as a woman to a man or a man to a woman when they feel like it's a dry season, to be like, hey, I noticed this? Or sometimes do you think it's too much to, when it comes to pressure? Because I think it can go both ways.
I think it depends on how you say it. How you say it. If you're loving about it, and really, I know the end result is, you probably want to get to the sex, but if you're really at the forefront, if you're really just, being empathetic to your wife and making her feel appreciate it, I think she'll like, that's to me, that's icing on a cake.
Yeah.
To even acknowledge it and let her know that you see it. You know.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So hopefully we helped with that question when it comes to the amount of times in a week. To put some humor on it, I will tell you that I read something once, Tiff. Crap. It was the worst advice ever. But where did I read it at? I really want to give the source. I can't remember where I read it at. I do remember my dad's bathroom. So my dad has all these health magazines in his bathroom. And I don't know why on the health magazines is always either attractive guy or attractive woman on there. And it's like, sex tips for 2021 or this is what you need to try in your bedroom. And I remember it said to keep a journal of the amount of times you have intimacy because sometimes your spouse don't know. So here I go like, oh, that's a great idea, right? Wrong, right? So I remember telling Tina, I was like, hey, yo, I journaled and there's something about when a guy journals, the woman's like, ooh, he journaled, right?
No, I can picture her being attentive.
Right. So I was like, hey, I was journaling. She was like, oh, he's about to share something really deep with me. And I was like, so I documented every time. Tina got so mad.
Yeah, I wish I could have seen the face.
She was just like, hold on, you document? I was just like, well, it said that sometimes the woman may not even know. She was just like, nah, bro.
Who wrote that? Like,
I don't know. Yeah, you can't listen to everything. So what I'm getting to when it comes to numbers, man, don't get caught into numbers. Take it from your boy. But
because I know that you guys keep up with it. I feel like you keep
so?
mental, like the last time, what was going down, like you know all of that.
I think I'm a 3-day guy.
That's the one thing women have recall, but that's the one thing we don't remember that.
Really?
I don't remember it.
By that 3rd day, I'm like, hey, we ain't really like. I just want a response. I'm not saying it gotta happen, but at least acknowledge like it hasn't happened. But I think you know what I mean. So it's one of those things, though. I think it is so healthy to talk about it because I seen the mosquito you were talking about.
Yes.
You seen him?
I saw him.
We kill mosquitoes even on camera.
Get the mosquito. I just got a revelation to something.
Go for it.
And I hate to interrupt you, but even in us talking about how many times and what's the number, and even I'm guilty of like, oh, they just want to do it and do it and do it. I'm glad he wants to do it with me. I'm glad he finds me attractive because if not, he'd be looking at somebody. Like, at the end of the day, ladies, I'm grateful that my man is really after me like that. Like, I want him to chase around and wanna know, hey, when we, I need to help him to be how can I get you back? I want you to be tired and drained because we've had sex.
That's real.
So you can look at it a lot of different ways, and I just believe that it's key to saving your marriages and keeping them healthy.
I think, I'm okay to say this, and I said this before, that I didn't want to talk about intimacy on this podcast as much because I know everybody evaluating what is Chris and Tina over there doing, right? Yeah. But I'm okay with saying this. I think that after having a conversation with a couple of my friends, we were talking about how sometimes men won't be aggressive in the way that they really feel, and they will bend and continue to bend and continue to bend until they become a person that they don't want to be. And I think when it comes to sex and intimacy in a marriage, I think that it's so healthy, guys, for us to explain how we really feel. And it's not necessarily the amount of times. It's just sometimes you can have sex a certain way and you want to do it a certain way. It's okay to verbally express that. Yeah. And I'm saying that to say this. It's okay to want to grow sexually. It's an experience that you want to do with your wife or with your husband. Right. This is not where I'm gonna get everything I can and then I'm moving on to the next one. It has to be an experience. But just like business and anything else I've dealt with, I have to communicate through that to grow. Yeah. And bro, it's totally cool. We talked about Jody last time.
Oh,
Can I bring back Jody?
We can talk about Jody.
Jody, man. Jody, my Jody. He didn't want to tell her the truth because he thought it was going to hurt her feelings.
Yeah.
And I think, lucky my wife she's dope, so I can come to her and tell her how I feel. For the most part, I won't hurt her feelings, but I think that majority of women, correct me if I'm wrong, you want to know how your husband really feel. And I think the voice of the unspoken man, if you don't speak that, they will never know. So I know sex for a lot of people is like, a cuss word, or you can't say that publicly. Like in your marriage, man, it's totally cool to tell your wife how you feel. Just do it the right way.
For sure. And if you don't, sometimes the most difficult conversations are the ones that's most needed. Yeah. And so, it might hurt my feelings for you to say, you know what, babe, I just, we're not doing it. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. I might shrink back and be like, this is all he want to do. Yeah. But then I'm thinking in my mind, okay, let me try to think of when I can, make myself more available, because maybe I haven't been. Maybe I've been really kind of been all on me, thinking about how I need to get my rest or how I need to. But sometimes it's not just about me. It's about us, because we're both in the relationship. Yeah. So sometimes if your husband needs, sometimes we just have to learn how we can balance it.
That's it. That's the word. Balance. Yeah. You know what? When I read that question now, it just now hit me. I took it as, hey, I want to do it all the time and she don't. What if they're not doing it at all? As a person that gives guidance, is that a problem if you don't have sex every week?
It's a huge...
Like if you're, say somebody once every other month on their birthdays, you know what I mean? Is that healthy? You know what I mean? Like somebody might be sitting there like, man, he talking about 3 times a week.
I get it.
Chris lucky. Like, I'm trying to I want at least once a week. What happens to the person that gets it maybe once a week?
Again, what works for my household might not work for yours, but that's a long time. And we've already talked about where it is for men. There's some things that, there could... Stephen is talking in the background. There could be something going on.
We do got another
there might be some medical issues, and sometimes there are. There could be, and that's really no joking matter. And then that's going to be where, for better or for worse, kicks in. Because even though men are thinking about it, as a man, I'm going to need you to be patient and be loving and be supportive as I'm going through this, and vice versa. Like for me, if it was my husband, I would have to, let him know, hey, babe, I know this is important to you. And the fact that it's not happening, you have to reassure your man that it's not taking anything away from you. And we always joke and kid about this, but sex is ministry.
It is.
In marriage.
It is.
It's worship. So if you you don't like talking about it, if it makes you uncomfortable, again, he ordained it, God ordained it, and it is ministry. Yeah. He wants us to, He wants us to engage. I'm gonna say it
because they might not heard it. The world
that has perverted it, and
I love that. So I think it's so cool that you said that from a woman perspective too, Tiff. Because if my wife was to tell me something like that, because I love her and that's my wife, okay, how do we work through this? If it's medical or if it's, I don't know, whatever, painful, whatever it could be, like, okay, how do we do this? But I think that's the important key, is to express it. And if that communication doesn't take place, man, I think that's where the frustration, that's where the isolation, that's where the eyes start going other directions, just because.
And just because you can't physically have the regular sex, you can get creative. I mean, as a married couple, the Bible says that the bedroom is undefiled. Am I saying it right? So, let's we're not gonna bring nobody else in there, but. There are things that, he doesn't have to always say, oh, I got to wait till my birthday. I got to wait till I'm only getting it 3 times a year. Like, there are things that can, that's something. I would say please seek guidance from a professional if that's what's going on, because somebody is not happy. They may not be saying it. Somebody's not happy, and they might be doing something else on the side. I'm not trying to break up any happy homes, but
that's real.
You can't be happy if you're not having sex but 3 times a year.
I said that on the last podcast with your husband, right? I said that just remember the athlete metaphor I gave you guys or example. When I get to a place where I don't want to speak about it no more, that's the problem.
Yeah.
So again, man, it's just a really good question, I guess. The amount of times I don't want to put a number on it, I can tell you what I think is an average good.
Yeah.
But I will say that it should be something that's consistent if you're growing. Cool.
Yeah.
Move
I
forward?
totally agree with that. Yeah.
Ooh. All right, question number 3. This is interesting. In my previous message, I'm guessing you meant marriage. In my previous marriage, we didn't speak the same language. Why rush dating? It's not really a sex question. But since you asked,
I don't understand.
I don't know this person personally, but they follow me. So I want to make sure that I answer it.
Why rush dating?
Maybe I can see a guy saying
Maybe
this.
not get married.
Maybe saying
Take it
I guess
slow.
in their past marriage they didn't speak the same language, so don't rush your dating. Maybe.
Yeah.
Can we turn
And
that
you
into a question?
shouldn't.
Okay, cool. So dating. All right, so cool. Because I know a lot of you may not be married yet. Let's talk a little bit about dating, Tiff, and let's tie that in. What was the first part?
Same language.
Okay, dating someone that speaks the same language as you. Okay, what do you think if I was to make this a question? If you're current, I'm guessing love language. If you're current, okay, yeah, let's do that. If you're currently dating someone, and we were talking about this a little bit before.
Yeah.
If you're currently dating someone and y'all do not speak the same love language, but you ready to get married, like put a ring on my finger, should that be some type of signal to be like, man, maybe I need to pump the brakes a little bit?
Well, you always want to take time and make sure that you're trying to get to know the person that potentially might be your mate. But I know people who have dated for years, and when they got married, they didn't even last.
Oh, wow.
And then people who didn't date long, and their marriage is strong.
Yeah.
So I can't even talk about a time frame for when that person is the right person. But as it relates to love languages, a lot of times we're the opposite. My husband and I, we're opposites in a lot of things, and I think that's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, because there are some things about me that he's strong in, and there are some things about him that I'm stronger in, and together we balance each other.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to love languages, I can give you there are times that I want to present things to Stephen, and my love language is different from his, right? So I might present him with a gift. That's not his love language. And so I'm so, I'm so strong in my belief, and let me get him this, let me get him that. But if it's not his love language, am I really just trying to please myself? And so I feel like in that, sometimes you have to take a step back and say, let me do the thing. I know my partner's love language is spending quality time. Let me do something that revolves around that instead of trying to just do what I want to do. Because really, it's kind of like you're being selfish, and I'm just going to do. Are you really taking time to get to know your mate? Yeah. It's okay that you have different love languages. Yeah. We just have to learn how to make that work. Yeah. If your love language is spending time and mine is giving gifts, then don't come to me and say, hey, I was thinking maybe we could just go and watch some movies. That's not my love language. I like A, B, C, or D, so why would you force that on me?
I like that too.
Sometimes we have to just really, if you get to know the person, know how they, think, how they love, and try to, operate in that.
That's real.
Now, if you don't want to do that, then maybe you should,
That's
but.
I love that. And also I think just because you speak English, that doesn't mean you're going to understand what they're saying. And what I mean by that is, if I talk typically about sports or working out is a good example. If I say, you might actually know it, but you might not. If I say, Tiff, you want to go ahead and do this AMRAP with me? You might be like, what's an AMRAP? And I'm like, you don't know what as many rounds as possible mean? Or, hey, you ready to do this EMOM? What's the EMOM? every minute of the minute. How you not know that? Even though I'm speaking English,
Yeah.
just because it's not the same verbiage that you're used to, and I think that can go both ways. She may be intrigued. She may say, well, I want to learn what an imam is.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll make me better. Cool. Then y'all vibe and you can grow together. But I just don't want you guys to say, oh, I read the book, or I know her love language and we got to be the same love language. No. You can feed another, what was it? What did they use? Not base. I forgot what they use. Oil. I forgot what he used in the book. I can't think of it.
It's been years.
Tank. Excuse me, tank. You can fuel another tank.
Yeah.
It don't have to be the same tank. You can fuel the other tank. And so
but that's going to make your relationship even better, because I really feel like my husband loves to run. You're not going to catch me really out there. Wait, I have though.
Yeah.
So in our marriage, I have because I love him and because I want to spend time with him. Yeah. So there are times that although I hate running and I hate being outside because I sweat, like I hate it.
Yeah, I'm a sweater.
I will do it because I want to know that part of him. I want to be with him while he's doing something that he likes. Yeah. And there are times that I might be shopping or something. I might, I'm at the store. He don't necessarily want to do that. He will go with me. He might sit out, walk around. Like, I use that for an example, but there are just other things that he may not necessarily want to do, but because he loves me and he wants to know every facet of me, he sacrifices that to do it.
That's it. So hopefully we answer what you were asking.
Don't have to be the same love language.
Don't have to be the same language. And you don't have to rush.
Yeah, never.
Take your time. That's church. Take your time, preacher. But we're going to move to the next one. I remember this question. I screenshotted it. I think I wrote it wrong. Hold on, Tiff. Let me go to this question. I screenshotted it. No, I didn't. Oh, no, I didn't. Yeah. First one. I got you, bro. What does submissive really means in a marriage?
Yeah, that's the one that women typically don't always want to hear.
This one's interesting. And I'm curious to hear from a woman perspective. What does that mean to you when you hear that?
So I think in a marriage, when we talk about the word submissive, we're talking about understanding and knowing that my husband is the head of the household under God. And so he goes before God and he prays over our house, or he, takes I guess whatever we're dealing with or going through, he takes that before God. And God directs him, and he, directs our household. It's not saying that I don't have a voice, I don't have an opinion, but at the end of the day, I'm submitting to my husband because he is the head of the household. And I think just when you hear the term, that it's just, I don't know, you feel like you're a doormat, somebody's walking on top of you, but there's an order in everything. At your job, there's a chain of command. There's a chain of command in your household.
That's true.
And, it's not taking anything away from the woman to say that you're weak. A lot of times we make decisions together. We talk about things. I'll give my opinion, and then I leave it with my husband. Yeah. And I allow him, because he takes care of, and I'll say this. If your husband is not doing the things, taking care of, the things that need to be taken care of, that can be really difficult.
Yeah. But
because my husband takes care of the house, he's the major decisions, I trust him to do it. But that might be an issue for some people, because maybe it's not, if they're lacking in some areas, sometimes a woman is like, I'm not going to listen to.
Yeah. And
it's going to create some issues.
So this wasn't written.
Okay.
But I want to add this in, because the generation is different from the
Very
50s
different.
and 40s and the 30s or 60s, whatever. Now women can work just as many, if not more, hours. Women can make the same, if not more, than their husband. Does the submissive role change if the woman makes more money? Does the submissive role change if they put in the same amount of work hours? I think that's...
If we're coming from the biblical Christian, God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. And that's just like the way the way it was set up was the way.
Yeah.
And I believe it was done, for a very specific purpose. And God put the man, we can go all the way back to Genesis. He put the man as the head of the household. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you make more money. It's not saying, again, that you're weaker or that you have no place, And it's not to, like I said, we sit down and we make decisions, but then it rests on my husband. Yeah. That's hard for some people.
I love it. Because, I mean, I know the thing is like the boss, right? The lady, I'm the boss. I think you can still be boss, right? But I think in certain situations, you just got to take that boss status down, and it's okay. Like I'm actually attracted to women that are really strong, that are obviously right, that are really strong, that are determined. But it's also an attraction when she can take that off and be like, hey, usually I got it, but you take it today. Like that's dope.
It's funny. The other day, I think we were at church, and I was just talking about how, like, I a lot of the things that we do in our marriage, my husband is real safe, real safe. So he's always like adding up. Oh, we can't do that. That's too much. And so there are a couple different ideas that I'll be like, babe, let's do this, and he'll be like, we can't. And I'll be like, well, let me just rub on you a little bit.
Right.
And some things will happen.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna go if he says, I don't think we should do it. I'm not just going to go book it anyway and do it and go. Yeah. Like, hey, I booked this. I know you said I'm not going to do that. Right. I'm going to present it to him. I'm going to let him know I really want to do this. And how can we do this? Right. And I'll talk a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, he's the head of the household.
I love that.
And that's just me, ladies.
I love that.
I believe the Bible is the same,
Yeah. I love hearing it from you because from a guy... Well, how much time we on?
It just ran out of space.
It ran out of space?
Yeah.
So that one's still good? Okay.
So you're just looking at this.
That's cool. I honor that you were able to express your point of view from a woman because I think when a man says be submissive, I think women sometimes just like, what's up? What you trying to?
Yeah.
You don't gotta you don't gotta go there.
Yeah.
But I would like for you also to hear it from my perspective too, because women can say, oh, cool. I know Chris's perspective or a guy that are the similar mindset of Chris. But also, I think men need to kind of hear my perspective too when it comes to submissive. So submissive, as you said, is not a doormat. It's not. I said it, you jump when I say it, and everybody can watch the Coming to America, Walk Like a Dog. Like it's not one of those type of things, right? And fellas, if you're operating like that and you expect your woman to be submissive, you're not gonna get the woman to be submissive. Or if she does, it's kind of weird because if you watch part 2, Coming to America, I was trying to be funny. She was still barking.
She was, and it shouldn't be something that you have to. Force. Like that's not being submissive.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that at all.
It shouldn't.
No.
And as a guy, I hope Tina gets this vibe from me. Like I don't have an expectation for her to jump when I say jump, right? But I do want her to not box me in on being creative. Sometimes I'm a risk taker, but at the same time, I'm gonna make sure we're secure. So being submissive doesn't necessarily mean that I don't want your opinion too, because a lot of what I do in my in business or ministry or whatever, a lot of the times is not from Chris. It was a idea or because a lot of times people see more in me than I see in my own self.
Okay.
So when Tina says, "Man, XYZ," I was like, "Man, I was only gonna go ABC, but cool, I'm gonna go XYZ." And I think shout out to the 44th. When I look at Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, I know we see this powerful man that is so patient and so wise, but I just get this vibe that she's in the background, just empowering
holding him down.
Yeah, so that looks vibrant. That's what I call submissive. So if I was to give an example, outside looking in, because I don't know what it is inside the relationship, but it looks like Barack is so empowered, but it does seem like, as you said earlier, there's this proven system of leadership, and I'm your side, and I want to support you.
That's right.
And I love what my dad says with the wife being taken out of your rib, right?
Yeah.
She's there to support you. She's not there to be underneath you.
Yeah.
She's there to support you, because if I was to be very authentic, there's times that it was hard to stand, and I did need that rib to put me back in position. So that's being submissive to me. It's not beating someone up verbally or physically.
Being a bully in marriage, no, it's nothing about that. It doesn't even talk like that in the Bible. Like when it talks about women being submissive. And I really, I love that my husband never forced me, like to say, I run this house. Like he's never, ever said that. And so there has been some times though that he's made a decision, and I've come back and said, well, babe, you didn't ask me, and I've had to say, I am your wife. Like I know I'm not going to make the final decision, but I would like to be in on, so that you can know how I feel about it. And when I've expressed that, just in case you're looking for a way, it was received well. You have to be able to receive it. And I didn't, storm in and like, hey, you need to talk to me. I did it in a loving way. And so he was able to receive it. And so he just kind of makes sure I'm letting you know this is what I'm thinking.
I love that.
And so between my opinion and his, what he feels like God is leading him to do, a decision is made.
I love it. Hopefully that's encouraging to hear. It's something that I like to add this in, Tiff. I read this the other day, or seen it on somebody's Instagram. It takes years to be an overnight success.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe the place that you're in now, the understanding and learning how to be submissive, that's not an overnight success how we imagine it.
Yeah.
It may take some time, but again, it goes to communicating and being authentic and being transparent. And fellas, like, be patient too, because, and this is like to be open with you guys, with Tina and I, if y'all want the realness. I think that we're brought up in two different households. So she may have not been able to get the perception that I was able to get, and it's unfair for me to have her at this expectation, and she never was able to witness it firsthand like me. So if that's the case, maybe get counseling, get guidance, get the people that you look up to that do it the right way, to kind of ask them the right question, because again, I truly believe a lot of our success doesn't happen because you don't ask the right question to the right people. And if you can put yourself in that position, man, just know that if she's not, or sis, if it's hard, just understand it's not an overnight pill. Take your time.
It's hard to hear it, especially if you've been living life on your own, just living. And now all of a sudden you're married, and it's like, I feel like I hear this word submission.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like I gotta run everything by my husband?
Yeah.
Do it. Like it feels scary to have that feeling, and no, it didn't always start off that way.
Yeah.
For Stephen and I.
Yeah.
I had to grow to be, where I am today. But I just think that when you fall in line with the way that God wants things to happen, things just turn out so much better, so much easier. Because when you try to go over your husband and do some things like that, it has its way of, crumbling.
Yeah, that's real. I told Tina this one day, one of those deep combos, and I still don't understand, Tiff, why she like having them at 1, 2, 3 in the morning. But I told her we're painting each other's life. And I want to be able to explain that to someone else. And I think if we live with that sense of urgency, then you don't mind fueling your husband or your wife that way. But I think when we get out the expectation of trying to live based upon what people think we live like. So to my ladies, I have that feeling sometimes you live that you feel, you feel that if you're submissive, your homegirls are looking at you a certain type of way. But man, I'm sitting with a married woman to my right, right? I think if she's seen a woman being submissive to her husband the right way, I don't think she's judging like, oh, she over there like respecting her man, you know, or she's making sure her man happy. Like, when fellas and ladies, when does that become a bad ideal to make your husband or wife feel appreciated, loved, supported, empowered? When did that become a bad thing? You know what I mean? So we can go on about being submissive, but I think the overall statement is that you're not a doormat. You're supported and you're loved. And honestly, when I was looking for a mate, actually I wasn't looking. It happened, and that's another story. But when I wanted to propose and start thinking about proposing, it was because I seen Tina as a woman that could be submissive. If I could not imagine Tina being submissive, I would have never, ever thought of proposing to her. The way I was brought up, I knew that's what I wanted. And for the ladies, Jim. So that's it. Can we move forward?
We can move.
Good. All right.
That's a tough topic.
That's a tough one. And honestly, this is a continuation question because it goes into, and how does a man and a woman be submissive to each other? Because the Bible, for those that are like biblically fed and you're operating, it doesn't, correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't necessarily say men be submissive to your wife. Does it say that? I don't remember.
One to another.
One to another. Okay. So boom, pastor, don't punish me. But so be submissive to one and to each other. So what's your outtake what was the question? So, and how does a man and a woman be submissive to each other? How does a man and a woman be submissive to each other? Because we talked about the woman being submissive, so I guess we need to talk a little bit about how the man can be submissive.
That's a good question, and I feel like I kind of answered it a little bit, but
I think you did.
It's a sense of respect in each other.
Yeah.
You're submitting each other's time and your efforts.
Yeah, that's it. So I think that
Each other's best interests in mind.
I know that whatever the decisions that my husband makes, he has my best interest. But it's hard for people when that's not, when they've seen something else. If the husband is not making good decisions, if they're not making good financial decisions, it's hard to look. And I'm talking about my marriage, and I feel like I have a good one. But when I grew up in the household with my father, he was not making good decisions. So I don't know if my mom, felt like I'm going to be submissive to him, even though she was. I don't know, if I was married to my dad, if I would have been like, oh, I'm listening to this. I don't know. Because he was not making good decisions about anything.
That's real, man.
And so in that case, ladies, that's
real.
he gives us 5 senses as well. That's when you might need to seek some professional help and get, some things taken care of. Because if
it goes back to even though the wife is submitting to the husband submitting to God.
Yeah. I think
and that you hit it.
So I don't know if they heard that. So can you repeat it?
So we talked about earlier.
I'm gonna get him a mic, y'all.
Yeah, the wife submitting to the husband, and I talked earlier about the husband has to submit to God. Obviously, if a man is making those kind of decisions, he must not be submitting to God. He must not be following how God is saying to treat the wife and to love the wife like you love the church, or to, head your house. You can't be listening to that and doing all these other, things that are not lining up. And if he's not doing that, you can't ask a woman to be submissive.
I love it.
You can't.
I love it. So typically when I look up to the right, I'm trying to search, I'm thinking, but when I look down, I am remembering. And as you mentioned about your father, I thought of mine and my mother. And to this day, I salute my dad the way that he ran and runs his household. What I thought of was that my father took pride in being submissive to his wife.
Oh, wow.
Right? I saw my mother take pride in being submissive to her husband. And I think that's again, I talked about the portrait earlier, but if I can explain what I meant by my father, my father's real big on securing and being protected and providing and going the extra mile, sacrifice.
Yeah.
And he took so much pride in that. I believe, outside looking in, that my mother would go the extra mile to be submissive to him because she's seen how prideful it was. Like, you have to have some type of pride to work 18-hour shifts to provide for your family for 38 years, right? I remember when I transferred in high school, he lived already 35, 40 minutes from his job. Now, when we moved, he drove an hour and 20 minutes to get to his job, to work 18 hours to provide.
Yeah.
Right? So he was prideful about that. I complain, y'all. I'll be like, Tina, we got to move back to the city. This is a task to see. Like, right? But I never heard my dad say that. I never heard him say, oh, we lived in West Houston. I had to drive to Deer Park every day at 3 in the morning.
He did. He took care of his family.
Right? So my mom had probably no choice in her heart to be submissive back because she was like, well, shoot. If I got a man that's gonna provide and secure me,
and that's what it is.
Yeah, so
that's what I'm like. When you have a man that's doing that, and he's taking care of you, and he's not being forceful, but he's taking care of his family. He's following the visions that God has laid out for him, for your family.
Yeah.
You have no. I mean, why would I not submit?
Yeah. I think hopefully I answered the question because I think that was it. That's the way you do it both ways. And with I Am Alpha, guys, I'm doing my best to use it as a platform to encourage and empower. But I want you to know this also helps because this brings conversations to my own household. So I get home, I was telling you a little bit about it. I get home from the gym, Tina's watching us. I was like, I've seen her maybe listen to it while it's live, but I've never seen her I think she was recapping. I don't know, but she said something and I told her this. We got in a real good conversation about knowing our roles as a spouse. That might have been a question. Was that a question?
I didn't see. I don't think so.
That might have been on the YouTube question list that I didn't write down. I'm sorry, guys. But we were talking about our roles, and she said, Chris, it's good when I cook that you tell me that you're grateful that I cook, right? And I thought about it. I was like, you're right. And I said, Tina, I can do a better job. And then I said, as a man.
Oh, so she would like for you to tell her.
Yeah, hey, man, thanks for cooking.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just thought you knew that. It's kind of an expectation. And then for those that know me, I believe what's up is down, what's left is right. So I said, Tina, it's the same way. I felt in my heart that you felt the same way. But when we go out to eat, your boy paying, right? If it's little things like that, I don't expect you to say, thank you. But she said in the last couple of weeks, she's been trying to do that, which she has. So I said, Tina, it's one thing, we got to talk about the podcast. I was like, my voice with the Unspoken Man series is to let people know how we really feel. But I told her, I said, Tina, you can tell everybody in the comment section if I'm lying or not. I said, Tina, every night I go to sleep, I pray over you by name. And not that I'm knocking on your door every day to let you know, hey, guess what? I pray for you today, Tina. But I want you to know how many people in your life is praying for you every night?
Yeah.
Right? How many people that would jump in front of a bullet so you don't have to get hit?
That covering.
So as a man, I take pride in that as my role, right? But I'm not looking for you to say, hey, thank you today for wanting to take a bullet for me. I think if she did, I would be like, wow, you really noticed the way I love you. And it would make me feel a certain type of way.
Yeah.
But I guess that goes into men and women potentially can explain how they feel even though they are grateful and they see it. Sometimes we don't explain. Thanks for opening the door for me.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I know you be praying for me. Thank you for praying for me. I couldn't imagine Tina telling me that, how I would feel. Yeah. So when she said that to me, I thought that brought up good conversation. You know what? Let's now communicate better with each other when we see something that we typically won't thank each other for. So again, I think that would be something that could be beneficial in submission.
I think so.
Yeah, submissive. Not submission, submissive.
That sounded like her love language when she was telling you that she wants you to, she likes to hear you say thank you for the meal.
Yeah.
So those.
This is funny. I ain't gonna say it.
Stephen tells me that sometimes if I cook, thank you, Mama. And I'll be like, why? Like, it's weird for him to say that because I'm like, if I cook, like, I don't expect for you to tell me thank you. I appreciate it, but you know, he didn't have to tell me.
I'm not gonna say I don't want her to thank me for like every little thing. Like, hey, thank you for whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But maybe if that is someone's love language, maybe
they might need to hear it. So it makes them feel appreciated.
Yeah.
You know.
I love it. All right, guys. I don't know what time we're on. Let's run through these, okay? Just some real good series, but I don't want to sound like a preacher and say, hey, part 2 is next week. Hour 15. All right, here we go. Let's do these last. Where are we at? Last 2. What's on the last 2? You good on time? Mm-hmm. Good. This is not really a question. Well, she did end it with a question. I don't know if she's trying to stir something up, but we'll say it anyway. Whenever my husband is ready, I'm his wife. It's my job to love. It's my job to love to fulfill him. The question is, why wouldn't you?
So that's kind of like when we first started.
Yeah.
Being available.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? I don't know. Medical. Exhausted from the day, medical condition. Maybe resenting him because he's not sharing the load. Like, I mean, there's a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Maybe you think he's messing around. You know, there could be.
If there's an elephant in the room, call it out. I've learned this in life. Sometimes you know it's an elephant in the room and you just don't know how to deal with it. But maybe that's when you seek guidance. Maybe that's when you be patient. Man, patience is such a hard thing to deal with.
Yeah.
My dad not taught me, but he jokes around with it. He's like, be careful asking God to teach you patience because, man,
he will do it.
It's difficult, right? But when there's an elephant in the room, and I don't think you said this to point, or poke jabs at other women, but I think there are situations sometimes where it makes things difficult when it comes to intimacy. And if it is there, man, hopefully you can talk through it and grow through it. Because ultimately, man, you want to be able to help someone else. So if you go through it, you can help others.
I feel like, too, this is the spouse that you chose to be with forever. At some point, you got to just say, I need to just let this person know how I feel. Yeah, and if you don't do it, they will never, they won't know. And then you will go through the rest of your marriage unhappy or, feeling, unfulfilled because you never said what it is that you needed to say. Yeah. I mean, I need to be vulnerable with my husband. Yeah. I do, because I can't be vulnerable with anybody else the way I am with him. Yeah. And it took a little time for me to get to this point. I think I can cry in front of him. I can do other kind of bodily sounds in front of him, like whatever I need to be, and I need to be able to lay it out to him. He needs to know. Yeah. And if he doesn't know, then that's another thing. Like, we need to be vulnerable with each other. Yeah. If not your spouse, who?
Yeah. Man, is it Les Brown? I want to say it's Les Brown. I should do my research before I say this. But it was a quote to the point, not word for word, but he said that some of the best gifts in this world is in the cemetery. Because so many people die without sharing their God-given talents.
I've heard that one.
Gifts. And
that'll push you. Yeah. That'll make you just do whatever you think about.
Yeah, it's so with marriage, I like to utilize this to a point of whenever my day is, man, and I pray it's 79 years. No, let's go 89 from here. I'll be old. 122. All right, so 70, 80 years from now. Right? I want Tina to be able to say, I gave him everything. Yeah. Right? Yeah. That's it. Because I know that I'm giving the same effort. Mm-hmm. So when you're talking to someone like me that believes into going through whatever situation it is and getting the most out of it. Like people always question me, like, why are you always happy? I'm not always happy, right? There's some life situations I go through, but I decide every day to get the best out of the day. But I'm an effort guy, Tiff. So when it comes to what I can physically control, like, it's hard for me not to give best effort and expect 100%. So if I give you 10%, there's no way in the world I expect 100%.
Yeah.
If I give 10%, I expect 10%.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like marriage, business, everything that I'm a part of, like I'm such an effort guy that I know at the end of my life, I know Tina's gonna be able to say, that man gave me everything he had. I might not have been able to buy her Fiji, the whole island. I may have not been able to buy a continent for her.
Yeah.
But she will be able to say that dude gave me 100% of what he had. And I believe if we can live with a sense of that spirit in our marriage, like think about that. Like your last day, I want your spouse to be able to say you gave everything.
Everything.
If you cannot say that right now, you are looking in this camera or you listening to our voice and you say my husband or wife will not be able to say that, then you gotta have a little gut check. That's just authentic.
Yeah.
Cool.
I like that. I think that's a good way to, a good goal in your marriage to try to achieve,
Tough. It's tough. Effort. All right, last one. What do we have? Oh, man, I remember this one. I think you try and get on this. Some men need to get up and work, get off those games. I was like, this is a sex question. How does this? Maybe she's saying this. She ain't. You ain't getting up 2-3 times a week.
That could be it.
So that's what we're gonna end it with. I guess I picked that one up too. I don't know.
Yeah. So, real talk. Some people may actually have some kind of addiction.
Yeah.
I think that, at this point, if you've been playing the game relentlessly since college, because for, I guess, my age, that's probably when some of them started. A little bit before college is when we really kind of took hold of it. But now kids have been playing since they kind of came out the womb. They on a game. But if you've been on this thing since college, you married, you still, like, if that's what you do, like, for the majority of your time, that's a problem.
Yeah. And let's tie this into the first question, right? If you, not the first question, but one of the questions, if you expect your wife to be submissive and you at home playing
on their game,
you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to look by any means, bro. I sit up and say this. By any means, I say this as respectful as possible and as humble as possible at the same time. I believe in work, man. Like, I'm not saying you got to make a certain dollar amount, but I am saying that
if a man don't work, he don't eat.
Yeah, it makes no sense for you to, golly, can I say it? It makes no sense for you to live off a woman and you ain't putting no effort in. If she's going to work and you at home playing Madden.
What kind of household you trying to?
Like, hey, I need you to be submissive. If I had a daughter, I'd be like, I wish he would tell you that,
And that's that. Are you being submissive to God? Are you following? You're not even being the head of the household. What are you doing?
Yeah. So maybe I understand the text now. I understand it now. I guess when I first heard it, because I work, I'm like, I guess I don't know nothing different. Honestly, that's just what I've been taught. That's what I do. But I can see people not working, like not wanting to go to work, and maybe whatever the living situation they're settled in, versus going to get it. So I will say that, bro, go get it.
And legit, it can be a condition.
Yeah.
Like gaming addiction is a condition.
Yeah.
Like there are people who. They like when they're not playing, they're frustrated. They're different things.
I heard that before.
This is really something that might be really destroying some marriages because there are people who don't know they don't know that they have it. They feel like it's normal, but you really legit have a condition.
Man, I wish if I'd have known where we were going with this, I could have read on it. But I read once that It was the three. It was pornography. It was gambling and video games are all very similar. They said they're all closed conditions. He said if you go to what podcast was it? I can't remember. But when you go to a casino, by design, there's no windows. They don't want you to know sometimes that it's getting late or the sun's coming up, right? Same thing with gaming. Like sometimes people lock themselves in rooms and they don't know if the sun's coming up or coming down, opposite pornography. But I do agree, man. It can be a condition. And I think with any condition, you got to first say it's a situation.
And you will be in denial, but the only people will know is the people around you. So if someone is telling you that you are spending an excessive amount of time on this game and this is all you're doing, like you might want to, like there could definitely be something going on.
And I know that we're the voice of the unspoken man, but if a woman's saying this, obviously get guidance. Like I'm not saying to listen to us and implement, but I'm wondering, if a woman is dealing with this and she's having a difficult time with intimacy, I don't see, you're not wrong for having challenges when it comes to intimacy. Man, I'm trying to plug this because I'm trying not to stab people on the side, but I do understand or would understand if there were sex challenges in your marriage because the man is not necessarily providing, but playing games. And
I just have to say this, like for men, earlier you said like basically you ready right now. For a woman, you might need to start like in the morning when we roll over and say good morning. You can't just expect, I'm playing the game all day and then when you get home I'm about to wait a minute, because there is intimacy that needs to happen. There's some wooing that needs to happen. There is some, you got to get the woman almost, inspired, ready, the foreplay of it. You don't just, pounce and expect that this is it. You have to spend time with the woman.
Yeah, I love it.
And just saying I'm ready
doesn't mean
that's not. That's not. It might work. You know what? For some women, it might be. They might be like, "You ready? I'm ready. Let's go."
For some, but I think maybe that's the voice for some people that they need to hear, because this may be your first time actually hearing, oh, I actually need to say hi to her today.
Yeah.
Like, me just being alive is not good enough. And
you gotta rub on her arm, like kiss her a little bit, do something other than get in the bed.
Yeah. Conversation.
Because that's where we are. Yeah. We're in the conversation. Yeah. And maybe like when Tina's talking at 1 a.m, you have that conversation.
Hey, Tina, man.
Because she's talking. It's in the conversation.
We're going to get Tina on a podcast. And I don't know what the subject title is going to be, but she is, I don't know what she would say. But, with Tina specifically, guys, a lot of you that know me personally know her. And for those that don't, she's an Excel sheet. She's a walking Excel sheet.
Yeah. And
it has to be in order for her. So when it's out of order, she don't understand it. So what Tip is saying now, if I go out of order to an Excel sheet, even though I get to the final column and I'm expecting to see that sum result, if I went out of order, that sum may not add up to what I want because I didn't go in order. But I mean, that part of that is through just maturity of trial and error and having sometimes uncomfortable conversations, right? But I think today, hopefully, guys, you're able to put some of our words together and put you in a position to be inspired to grow, ultimately. I think as we wrap up this last question and everything else, there are definitely two lanes in the street. And just don't expect the other person to do it all. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
I was reading a book called How to Be a Good Boss, a Great Boss, and he basically uses the rower when you're in a boat. So it's very frustrating when everybody in the boat is not rowing but everybody has the expectation that they're going to go to the next destination. So you are in a boat with your husband or with your wife, row together, man. I'm not saying it needs to be 100 miles per hour. I'm not saying one may not be fatigued and the other one's fresh, but if you do row or give the efforts to row, you would get there. But don't expect to get to where you want and everybody else does the work, because eventually they're going to burn out.
That's great. I like that.
You got anything else you can think of? We covered a lot.
That's it. 100. It's not 50. Everybody give 100.
That's real. That's real. I think my challenge, my key step for you guys is to know that sex is not a doormat, right? It's not where it's like, hey, I'm gonna use you when I need you. Because again, this whole subject line was for marriage. I don't even want to talk to you pre or.
I don't either.
I don't even want to have that conversation, to be honest. But I can say in marriage, you there's nowhere in the world you can use your husband or wife as a doormat and expect them just to be basically a tool when you want them. It's something that grows and something that you need to experience together. And ultimately, it shouldn't feel like oh my gosh, I don't want to
chore
all the time. I'm not saying there's gonna be some nights. Okay, let me let him do what he do, or let her do what he do, because it's just the need. But
that plays out. We both, a man and a woman, wants to feel wanted and needed, and so just that, come get it. That can only last for so long.
Yeah. I think that actually would have been a good question. Yeah. Let's end with that question.
I don't know if I want to go there with it.
You don't want to go there with it?
I mean, it's really. Sometimes women have to kind of. I know sometimes it might have to happen. Yeah. Because you're tired, and sometimes the man is just like men want what they want.
I think as a man, Tiff, you might be different, but as a man, sometimes you okay with it.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I was at church one time, and the was it a pastor? He was the pastor's wife. No, it wasn't the pastor. It was a deacon, I believe. He said, the wife said basically, sometimes he just wanted to get it. And I just let him get it. It's not no wooing, no rubbing, no touching. I just want to go. And she understands what works in their household. If you have that understanding, if you communicated that, it's some days I just need to get it in. Yeah. Point blank.
That's it.
We don't need to do all this other stuff. But some days, and I know that probably couldn't last for the whole marriage. But it's understood.
Of course not.
And then there's sometimes I'm sure that wife was like, okay, now we're not going to bunny hop today. We need to slow it down and just,
Yeah, that's it. I think that's I think the key word is what works within that marriage. Mm-hmm. And I think for a guy, for Chris, it's acceptable sometimes, because I know sometimes it's whatever, it's tired, whatever, but it's not all the time.
Yeah.
It's not the expectation, but
because we're not robots, we're a human being.
Yeah, 100%.
And we want to feel as if you want it too.
Yeah, that's it. I think let's end with that one, and we'll do a part 2 in 2022 or sometime. But I think what he just said, I don't know if you guys were able to pick him up on the mic, but men and women, Chris, want to feel that you
want it.
Right, because if you make me feel that you want it, it's that's the energy, that's the excitement, and that's vibrant. So just remember, guys, sex is made to replenish, to refuel, to connect. It's beautiful, man. Yeah, it doesn't have to be this stressful, uncomfortable, thing. It should and will be something that will inspire your marriage, and that's all I have.
Yeah, I think that's good.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, if you haven't already, connect with my sister. I'll put all your social, if you want me to, I'll put your social media thing. I really love y'all series that y'all do. I'm a fan.
Okay. I think we're doing something coming up, too. Something kind of special.
Yeah.
How did you know? Yeah. So, and I really believe that's just on my Facebook, because we don't have any kind of plug for it just yet.
Yeah. Well, I follow it.
He's shaking his head, but I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely follow it. So, You know, it's great to be around people that do it the right way. And these two, I know with Tiff and her husband in the last episode, I really admire the way they do it the right way. And I'm not saying people are perfect, but you're always inspired by people that give their best. And since I've known them from day one, you guys have always gave your best in everything I've been a part of. So I appreciate you. Appreciate you, bro.
I'm honored to be asked because I'm no one special on this. I just want marriages to, to last. That's I just want people to give their 100%. If you give that, and that's all you can do, Sometimes they don't work. Yeah. But for the ones that can, it's because a lot of the times we know that we're not perfect, and we're just gonna work together to make these two people that's not perfect, make this thing come together.
Yeah. I think what you just said is so dope. I was telling it was Tina. I'm gonna say it. Sorry, Tina, if you don't want me to say it. We were talking about marriage. It was one of those talks, and she said something like, marriage is supposed to be tough. Marriage is supposed to be hard sometimes. We're supposed to get into it. I was like, yeah, I know we may get into it, but that's not marriage all the time. Yeah. And it opened up a great conversation to be like, man, I didn't even think you thought that. So I want to be able to express, that's one of my goals with Tina is I want to be able to show you a marriage that is totally different than the perspective you may have had. Yeah. And marriage is beautiful. And I know numbers are against us. I know statistics, what they show. Yeah. But I think if statistics can be shown of people that are empowered the right way, I wonder what those numbers are. Versus just the overall number.
And I do say it sometimes when I'm posting that I'll have a hashtag marriage is work. I think work, that's what it is. Not necessarily hard, but work. And it's an intention. Every day I go to work, I come home, I'm intentionally coming home to my husband. I don't have to. Yeah. He doesn't have to. But we are making the decision. I'm choosing you every day. I chose you today. Yeah. I chose you yesterday. I want to come right here to you. And it's work. But I'm not going to say hard because we have a lot of good days. Yeah. But it's some just seasons. Right. It's some times that it's a little hard. And maybe those hard patches don't even last that long, but they are there. Yeah. They are there. And hopefully they help to make times that do come up a little less harder than what they have to be because you're learning, as you're together growing.
I love it. In conclusion, because I know I said it 4 times.
Pastor.
This has been really
good.
This
is a pastor in the making. That's why he's saying it.
Working out. All right, for those that are connected with me in the fitness industry, when you work out, you look back throughout your year and say you lost 50 pounds. You don't think of every workout. Sometimes you think of the hardest workout. Oh, I remember he had me pulling sleds or whatever, but you may have had all these range of motion, stabilization, balance, core workouts that was the easy days, but we remember sometimes the hard days. Just know, I think with marriage, sometimes it can be flipped. We will have some days that are really, really difficult and challenging. But man, if you ask me in 7 years of marriage, I don't even know all the challenges sometimes, but I can tell you about the time we went to Jamaica. I can tell you about the time we had a surprise party. I can tell you about the time XYZ. So just know, man, there are seasons, but when you look back, you'll look back on more of the great versus the days that you had some challenges on.
That's cool. Right.
You ready?
Right. Yeah.
We out?
We out.
All right. Thank you, Tiff. I'll see you guys later. Subscribe, turn your notifications, and tell everybody, Uncle, Lucy, baby mama, everybody. Y'all take care.